Has this war debunked the facade of unassailable US military assets?
You raise a very, very legitimate questions.
It was friendly fire, sometimes it is laundry fire, neither enemy fire nor friendly fire.
Number of vulnerabilities that were discovered. The US was not prepared for that kind of war. It's obvious.
Welcome to Game Plan. I'm Shivan Chanana. A number of US military assets have been severely damaged and even destroyed in the ongoing war in West Asia, started by the US. And since the start of the conflict, the US suffered damage to over 16 aircraft, including at least 12 MQ-9 Reaper drones, 3 F-15 Strike Eagle fighter jets, a KC-135 refueling tanker over Iraq, while another KC-135 aircraft was damaged in that same incident. Considerable damage to a US F-35 stealth fighter jet. Up to 4 radars associated with THAAD systems have also been damaged. The THAAD system deployed near Dimona in Israel was breached when Iranian missiles struck Dimona and Arad just a few days ago. An ANFPS-132 Block 5 upgraded early warning radar that's based in Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. Qatar confirmed the damage that was caused to it. USS Gerald R. Ford damaged, and it's requiring 30 hours of firefighting and over a year of repairs thereafter. And these are reports suggesting that an F-16 fighter jet belonging to Israel was also shot down over Iran. Several frontline assets have come under pressure as the Iran war exposes vulnerabilities in some of the US military's most advanced systems in the skies as well as on the ground. Has this war debunked the facade of unassailable US military assets? I'm Shivan Chanana, and discussing this with me is Dr. Avner Cohen, Professor of Non-Proliferation and Terrorism Studies, Middlebury Institute. Dr. Cohen, thank you so much for making time for me, joining me here on Game Plan. We've heard that the US explain some of the major damages, saying that it was friendly fire, sometimes it is laundry fire, neither enemy fire nor friendly fire, or sometimes it's just silence. Do you find these questionable reasonings for the damage they're taking?
Well, there is no question that once you are in real fight, using people and equipment to the extent that you do not do normally, the strain on the systems and indeed the Iranian systems have some impact. What you have mentioned is correct. I mean, there are a number of vulnerabilities that were discovered. Actually, the damage is about nearly $2 billion just from that, just for the various types of equipment that you mentioned that were either destroyed or badly injured, badly harmed. It's in many ways, it's a lab to test new equipments. Yes, the United States lost Predators, 12 of them. The Iranians surprised by their ability to have accuracy. There were errors, such as the crash of the tank Strouter, the KC-135 over Western Iraq. All this does show vulnerabilities, and obviously the Chinese and the Russians are watching.
Going forward, yes, there have been damage, but the way the US has denied all these reports, do you find it plausible?
I don't think the U.S. denied all these reports. Many of the items that you mentioned, the U.S. did acknowledge. The friendly fire over Kuwait when 3 F-15 were shot down, crew survived, that was acknowledged. The KC-135, it was acknowledged. The damage to the THAAD radar over Jordan, it has been acknowledged. So there are damage, and much of it, I guess not all of it, has been acknowledged.
The manner in which it has been acknowledged, because they're being very clear that, do you find it plausible? Everything is a friendly fire, laundry fire, and USS Gerald R. Ford, it's a major asset in the seas. For it to be deployed for over a year, perhaps the longest deployment that it has had, requiring 30 hours of firefighting and over a year of repair, it's been taken out of the region. And there is no acknowledgement of what really perhaps caused that fire to start, or what kind of fire would have caused that kind of damage that it would require that long a repair time. Anything that you read into it more?
Well, the U.S. was not prepared for that kind of war. It's obvious. For example, various facilities in the Gulf states in Bahrain, I believe also in Oman and Qatar were damaged. People did not have sufficient sheltering. There was no rehearsing of various kind of types of interactions in the air or on land. I mean, the fact that Kuwaiti Air Defense shot down, I think one time it was from the air, a number of F-15, that's embarrassment, and it became known. Israel, which has much less losses, I understand Israel lost a number of unmanned drones, long-term drones over Iran, but so far, for the Israelis, finger crossed, they have not lost one manned pilot aircraft, which is remarkable. I mean, because the pressure on the Israeli airports is enormous. It's longer flights. It's very sustained. It's already almost 4 weeks. So there is difference between the performance of the U.S. and the Israeli. I think the Israelis seem to have performed better. I think the U.S. has much less preparation for that kind of operation. You need coordination of so many different units, which normally have not been trained to have that kind of communication. So it's an operation with scale and magnitude and time that I think the United States was not ready for that kind of thing. And a lot of stuff is being tested for the first time.
Also, Dr. Cohen, you had mentioned the F-15 fighter jets. Now, let's just go with what the US has said. Of course, that's the official version, that it was shot down in friendly fire. That friendly fire came from their own systems used by the Kuwait Defense Forces, the Patriot air defense systems. I wanted to understand, a US-based air defense system shooting down a US fighter jet, is there no way that these advanced air defense systems are able to recognize a friendly asset?
Well, my knowledge of those incidents, there were apparently 3 of them, is not that sufficient. But my rough understanding is that the teams on the ground were not fully coordinated. The radar were not fully coordinated. The result was that yes, there was a friendly fire against their own people, their own comrades. It's embarrassing. It shouldn't have happened. But if you have not done enough exercise in different kind of units, it's ultimately expected. Maybe 3 is too much, but too many. But that's what happened.
Also, let's come a little further. We understand that Iran has a good amount of support coming in from China and Russia in terms of intelligence, in terms of its military assets as well. These are reports, nothing confirmed by Iran, so we'll let our viewers know of that. But the strategic gains that the potential adversaries of the US, China and Russia, would have gained from the intelligence that they would perhaps now receive from Iran with the way they were able to damage a certain number of US assets based across West Asia. How do you feel that is going to put US at a disadvantage? Because these are some of their finest military assets that are at least on display that the world knows.
Yeah. It's not so unlike what happened to the Russians in Ukraine. Actually, the Russians were much more engaged in Ukraine in terms of equipment, in terms of many formations of units, in terms of actually the Ukrainians' drones that were able to have incredible performance over Russians. So it has been said that indeed Russia provides some intelligence, especially intelligence over the Arabia, over the Arab smaller states along the coast, and possibly some vulnerability of the system to the extent that Iranians do not have that kind of knowledge. It has not been confirmed, but in official way, but I understand the Russians do provide that kind of information to the Iranians. It's in many ways also retaliations over the intelligence which the United States and other NATO countries provided to Ukraine, even in a more full capacity. But obviously everybody is watching. There are vulnerabilities, including, for example, the F-35, the stealth, which one of them was not shot down, but it was harmed by Iranian, what they call passive infrared seeker, which was able to reach the. So that's a vulnerability of the F-35, which I guess Russians are going to try to study more thoroughly.
Let me just take a little further from there, sir. The vulnerability of an F-35 has been exposed now in a war which the US started itself at this point unilaterally. Let me understand this from you. Just the term F-35, the jet that it is, the kind of fear that it would project in any adversary, knowing that this is the strongest military in the world, projecting one of their strongest assets in the air, and then finally it gets taken down by Iran, which was largely not considered anywhere at par with the US.
Well, it wasn't taken down.
Right,
it was harmed.
I correct myself. Yeah. I correct myself. It was harmed. It exposes a vulnerability. Do you feel that punctures or dents a facade of the invincibility of US assets, military assets?
Well, I think it's expected. Once you have a real engagement, and the engagement takes time, in this case we are dealing something almost 4 weeks already, obviously various vulnerabilities are going to be exposed. One of the issues that exposed in a very thoroughly way is the economics of the difference between offense and defense.
Absolutely.
The drones of Iran, which the Shahed is about $35,000. You need to pursue them. You need to hunt them by much more expensive system, either the Israeli systems, and you spend a lot of time of aircraft, helicopters, system on the grounds. The same thing with missiles. The defense is much more expensive than offensive. So we learn certain kind of lessons. Also, there is apparently not enough equipment. I think both Israel and the United States, and I'm sure also the Iranians may have lost 70% of their launchers, but all those countries involved in this combat are, I'm sure, facing some kind of economy to try to save munitions and to worry for how long this is going to last.
And Dr. Cohen, as far as the exposure of these vulnerabilities is concerned in the US military assets, do you find long-term implications on the US? Because we understand that the US military complex, the military industrial complex, it is vast. It is very, very important to the US economy. What kind of implication do you foresee, if at all there can be one?
Oh, there are many. One is that the United States productions of munitions, all kind of explosive, has been buffed and has been speeded. Apparently, there are a number of new factories that very fast are being assembled in order to make productions. The United States already acknowledged unofficially the fact that there will be shortage of a lot of elements of important equipments. They did not expect to have that kind of shortage in that time. It takes resources from other theaters. The United States is unable right now to provide much to Ukraine. It takes stuff from the Asian theaters. So it's very costly. It's costly in terms of equipment, in terms of humans involved, the pilots and the ground teams. It's also interesting that the fact that we see, to the extent that we don't have a lot of data, we have very limited data, but it's interesting that Israel, for example, seems to perform better than the United States, I guess because Israel has been rehearsed and performed and did a lot of preparation for that kind of operation, much more than the United States. So Israel did not have so far, and again, finger crossed for Israel, any major accident. And that's interesting.
I understand that point. As far as the orders are concerned, perhaps, which other countries may be eyeing these assets in future from the US, do you feel there would be a reconsideration? And let me talk about the radars that have been damaged. They were not able to intercept incoming missiles or incoming drones, which had largely caused this kind of damage. Again, that exposes a vulnerability. The THAAD system, which got outfoxed, I would say, near Dimona and Arad. Again, these are reports which suggest that the THAAD system is deployed there. Nothing that has been confirmed from Israel or the US, so we let our viewers know of that. But the fact that the missiles did hit that area, it raises a question on the ability of the THAAD air defense system. Then the F-35, which got damaged. and the entire list that I read out in the beginning, would there be a reconsideration or while...
I'm sure will be a lot of lessons drawn. There will be a lot of studies after the war, exactly what happened, to try to analyze, to try to understand the performance, to try to understand the economy of those weapon systems. There will be a lot of studies. One thing that we have seen also so far, which is interesting, is how much Israel, with its own air defense system, the Arrow and other systems, were able to intercept essentially nearly somewhere between 80 and 90% of the Iranians' missiles. That's quite impressive. Yes, there is the THAAD as well to provide some additional extra support, but Israel, with its own systems, were able to intercept most of the incoming missiles from Iran. That's quite impressive.
Dr. Cohen, thanks so much for joining us here, because, why I'm mentioning this is because it took us some time. It took me some time to finally find a voice who would be willing to have this discussion with me. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate your views. Yeah, please go ahead.
I also want to mention the fact you raise a very legitimate questions. There is right now superficial understanding of this issue, part of it because of security, part of it because we outside the systems do not have all the details. But this is the first time that we have so much equipment and so many people involved in one theater, large theater. You know, Iran is a huge country. And all those lessons will be thoroughly studied, and I think it will take time. It will take years to try to absorb those lessons. So you raise a very interesting and very important questions. Thank you.
Dr. Avner Cohen, thank you for your time.
Thank you.